Welcome to Basic Brewing Video. I'm James Spencer.
I'm Steve Wilkes.
Second lager of the day.
Vienna.
We're heading to Vienna. I was going to affect some sort of accent, but I'm not even going to go there.
You know, my favorite movie of all time is set in Vienna.
Oh?
The Third Man.
Oh.
You know The Third Man? It's a great film.
Is that the Orson Welles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where he goes into the sewer?
Yeah.
Apparently you can go, there's a tour where you can go into the sewer.
Well, we have that in Hawkeye too, but sometimes we have to get the antenna down off the roof.
Then sleep on it.
Sleep on it.
Inside jokes.
Inside jokes.
All right, Vienna Lager. This is a recipe that Chris Colby and I came up with on Basic Brewing Radio in our recipe development series. That's where Chris Colby of beerandgardeningjournal.com and Matt Giovanisi of brewcabin.com and the Brew Cabin YouTube channel, we get together and we come up with recipes from scratch. We just start out with a style, we take some notes on what we want, and then we just debate back and forth on what kind of ingredients we want, such as that, and then we make the recipe.
Wow.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And then do you each brew it?
Well, we take turns.
Okay.
Only Chris is still to brew his, but
well, that was hence my question.
He's got the ingredients. He's a procrastinator.
He's
Chris.
matriculating down the field, even as we speak.
He's doing more gardening than beering lately. Anyway, not to throw Chris under the bus.
No,
we love you, Chris.
Not at all.
Anyway, and I sent this beer and the Italian Pilsner to Matt and Chris for tasting on the show. So these episodes might already be out by the time you get this. Anyway, the recipe that Chris and I formulated on the show called for 7.5 pounds of Vienna malt. Well, the local homebrew store, was in the process of moving, and they're now North Tunnel Homebrew Supply is now a part of Boston Mountain Brewing and Supply, and so they were a little short on the Vienna malt, so I had to make a little substitution. So that's just a little asterisk for the recipe for the record books. Okay, I start out with 8 gallons or 30 liters of water at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C into my Warthog electric brewing setup. I mashed at, had to put in the ingredients first, 3.5 pounds or 1.6 kilograms of Vienna malt. Then I substituted, for some of that Vienna malt that they didn't have, 4 pounds or 1.8 kilograms of crisp, finest Maris Otter. Then I added 2.5 pounds or 1.1 kilograms of 10 Lovibond Munich, 2 ounces or 56 grams of black Prinz. I mashed at 150 degrees Fahrenheit or 65 C for 90 minutes. I collected my wort. I did a 60-minute boil. I did 3 ounces or 85 grams of Czech Sats at 2.7% alpha acid for 60 minutes, and that's all the hops. And because that's all the hops, I did a no-chill. I just racked into a no-chill container and let it chill overnight in the basement. And then the next morning, transferred to a fermenter, pitched a packet of Imperial L25 Huga with no starter, and then put it into my kegerator to ferment. And it fermented there at 57 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 days. I brought it out for a diacetyl rest after that, and then I think 3 or 4 days after that, I kegged. So the starting gravity was 1051, final gravity 1008, ABV of 5.6%. So this is a lager with no starter, with this fresh pack of Imperial L25 Huga, fermented at lagering temperature, and I think it did really well. The numbers say it did well. We'll taste it and see if I should have used a starter or not.
Okay.
That is the question. So cheers. It looks like you've been sipping while I've been talking.
Sip. That happens sometimes. I've quit drinking, by the way.
Yes. Well, you've slowed down you've for health reasons or whatever. You've slowed down to your drinking, but this is for work.
This is work. And I'm going to do a lot of work.
Okay, so now we have to think. Drink and think.
It's a good beer. Clean, malty.
Is it a Vienna lager?
That I don't know.
That's an honest answer.
Well, and truthfully, I don't,
Pardon
in a
me.
way. Because when I think of a Vienna lager, I don't know of any that are from Vienna these days.
Right.
I think of them as being from Mexico City.
Right, like is it
Negra
Modelo?
Modelo. So I think of Vienna lagers coming out of Mexico now. This is the malt bill. So I'm going to compare it to a Negra Modelo.
Okay.
The malt bill is very similar, in my opinion. The maltiness, the kind of caramel-ness of it is very similar. I think this is a little hoppier. This has a little bit more hop background. The Negra Modelo, I think, is, I don't want to say it's under hopped. It's because it's not. It's appropriately hopped. But I always want it to have a little more hops in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of a hophead. I mean,
To me, it's more industrial than this,
yes, I agree with
which
that.
may or
I
may
agree.
not be a ding, depending on your preferences.
Well, and I use that beer because pretty much everybody's had one. I mean, it's an extremely common beer, and people like it. And this is very similar, but I think this is better because it has a little structure to it that I think the Negra Modelo is a little soft and round for my taste, and this has a little more angular flavor because of the way that you hopped it.
Oh, interesting.
That's my take on the beer.
Do you think? What's your opinion on on substituting Maris Otter for the Vienna?
That I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Why are you here?
I don't know.
You're supposed to be an expert. We're on the internet.
I would never. I mean, if you just served the beer and said I wouldn't know if there was Maris Otter and as opposed to Vienna in it in the final product. Now, perhaps if you brewed another beer with just Vienna and then this beer, we can say, okay, I see what the difference is.
Right.
But in general, I don't know. We did a video a few minutes ago, which no one knows yet the order they'll be shown. But in that beer, I could, the hop, it was that,
Hollerschau Mittelfruit.
yeah, the Holzheimer Mittelfruit, and then the Avant-Garde Pilsner malt, and that was the only malt in the beer. In that beer, the malt really showed. I mean, it shone out, and it was brilliant. In this beer, the malt is still there, but I think the caramelization of it kind of hid the base malt.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. I think that there's no harm.
Yeah.
It certainly didn't do it's not a bad beer because I substituted Maris Otter for the Vienna malt. Is it less authentic? I don't know. It's a homebrew. But I think I get out of there's 2 ounces of the Black Prince mainly for coloring.
Yeah. I would have put Freddie Prinz in there. Just for
Chico, don't be discouraged. I know all those lyrics, by the way. But 2.5 pounds of the 10 Lovabond Munich, I think also helps add that, kind of caramely kind of thing. It is pretty caramely.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as far as being like porterish, but it's a neighbor.
it's pushing there.
It tastes darker than I anticipated it tasting.
I would say that too. Yeah, it's a malt wise, it's a little heavier than I was expecting, and that's probably that 2.5 pounds. It's probably that Munich.
Yeah.
That's doing that.
So maybe if I were to do this recipe again, and I've sent some to Chris Colby for him to taste, and we'll talk about that on the show. If I were to do this again, I think that I would back off at least a pound, maybe from 2.5 pounds of the 10 Lovabond Munich. Maybe I would back off to maybe just a pound,
Yeah.
just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. It's a delicious beer, but from what I was expecting, it's just it's a teensy bit too heavy.
Yeah, it's a little heavy.
dark
it's a little
or
heavier.
dark tasting. It's really good.
It
And it's not slowing me down from drinking it.
Not at all. It kind of reminds me of some Scotch ales I've had.
Oh my!
A little bit. Maybe it's a little hoppier than a Scotch ale would be, but it kind of reminds me of that.
It's not as gloppy as like a Scotch ale, though.
No, but a lot of Scotch ales aren't as heavy as, when we think of Scotch ales, we tend to think of like wee heavies and like, whoa.
Right.
But a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are at this level. And it kind of reminds me, this beer is about malt. Mm-hmm. So it actually, maybe that's the Maris Otter. I mean, it's got some kind of Britishness to it.
Ah, well.
I mean, there's just something about it. Like it's a malty bass.
Oh.
You know.
Oh, that's a good description.
Yeah, it's like it's a bigger, heavier, thicker bass ale.
Oh.
That's kind of what it reminds me of, or Old Speckled Hen, or something like that. But just
I
more.
like that. I like that a lot. Well, I hope you've enjoyed our little conversation.
Well,
just fly on the wall here.
Yeah.
No, but that's a good. That's a really good comparison. Take that to the bank.
that.
All right. Well, try the recipe or your version of it, or if you have a version of a Vienna lager that you do and you enjoy, post it in the comments. And
yeah,
I think it's a good beer.
it's a great beer.
Like I say, it's not slowing me down from drinking it. It's just a little more darker than I anticipated it being.
Yeah,
Which is why you do recipes and then you do them again.
absolutely. And
And you take notes in your brewer's logbook, available at basicbrewingshop.com.
the fun thing about being a home brewer is that however it comes out, as long as it tastes good,
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
And then you can go back if you want to nail down a recipe and you're really trying to hit styles,
Right.
brewing classic styles and all that, then do that.
There's nothing wrong with
Nothing
that.
wrong with that. But if you want to substitute some Maris Otter in your Vienna lager and you see how it tastes, and it's good beer.
Yeah. Now I'm tired.
Okay, Ollie. Sis boomba.
It's the sound of an exploding sheep. All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Come and visit us online at basicbrewing.com. You can find archive lists of our audio and video podcasts on homebrewing. You can also find our DVDs and our brewer's logbook, where you can track and log up to 50 batches of beer. Did you have Vienna? Did you say Vienna sausages or Vienna sausages when you were little?
Vienna.
Oh, you're too fancy. We ate Vienna sausages.
From South Arkansas.
Well, Central Arkansas. Vienna. Why? I used to like Vienna sausages. Okay,